Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have with me in the studio today my friend, Professor Edmund C.J. Nwana. Did I pronounce it well?
Yes, Father.
Professor Nwana. Professor Nwana is a consultant pathologist, a long-time teacher, professor of pathology, and immediate past Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja Academics.
Yes.
And he is still practicing and teaching and at the University of Abuja. And we are here in the studio. I've invited you, Prof. This emergency that has come, of which doctors and nurses and clinical psychologists and pharmacists and everyone, health workers are on the front line. I've brought you for us to discuss once again what's going on in the hospitals, what's going on in the health centers, and so on. To what extent has this seriously affected your work, the work, I'm not saying your specific work, work of everyone, and how has this COVID-19 seriously disrupted our lives, and to what extent is healthcare going to be the same after? Are we going into a new normal where people will be afraid to go to hospitals, where even doctors are afraid of patients coming in? I am told that there are not enough personal protective equipment for all health workers, on account of which anybody coming now is suspected of being COVID-19 carrier. And doctors are slow, nurses are slow, and so on and so forth. So both ways, patients are afraid to go to hospital. So some people are dying at home. Also, because of the number of health workers that have been infected with this COVID-19, the number of health workers, you can't blame them, are a bit slow, especially when they are not equipped with all the protective equipment. What's going on, Prof? And are we hoping that this will be ameliorated very soon?
Well, first of all, let me thank you very much for this, your invitation to share your reflections on the matter you have raised. There's no doubt that the world, and Nigeria in particular, is going through a very trying period.
Very trying period.
Occasioned by this pandemic, which was totally unexpected. As at a few months back in January, we were all talking about Happy New Year. Congratulations, welcome 2020. We had plans laid out in every sector of human endeavor.
We had approved our budget very quickly.
Everything was set to go. Lo and behold, in walks the pandemic COVID-19. Initially, it was supposed to be some restricted occurrence somewhere in China, Wuhan. And before you knew it, the WHO came out screaming. Everybody was running. The world was gripped with real fear and panic. And then came up these theories of lockdown, quarantine, isolation, certain new languages that hitherto were restricted
to the hospital.
Became global language. Quarantine, etc., lockdown, lockup, with the attendant consequences, many of them unintended. That's where we have arrived. Now, in matters like this, yes, the health personnel are in the front line. Even before now, and with all due respect to all of us, our healthcare system was laboring under a load of inadequacies across all the levels, from primary through to secondary to tertiary care. I can confidently say that we are paying lip service to it. Because as it were, those whom we had entrusted with responsibility to look after us in a democracy could easily jet out.
They didn't depend on the infrastructure here.
Could easily jet out to have attention for toothache in the best of places at public expense, for which they never rendered account. But here we are, suddenly, all of us, the high and the mighty and the very lowly, locked inside Nigeria. No flights, no movements. I do hope that the minimum we'll get out of this will be that we'll then get to work and give our people the quality of healthcare they deserve, and we have the resources for.
So COVID-19 became a leveler.
A leveler is a blessing in disguise, as sad as it is that lives have disappeared globally. Because if they could fly out further, you know what will be happening. You and I would be left to our luck and our fate. They would have left. But here we are, in a very strange irony. The places they would have jetted out to
are not ready to welcome anybody.
Are having the casualties even more. So we're here. We are dancing naked in the marketplace. We are here. There is no hiding place for us. Of course, health personnel, the equipment, like I said before now, what was available? What was available? Budget was not addressing those things. So those personal protection equipment, like you rightly said, are not available, even to the frontline workers. So here you are, doctor afraid, patient afraid, in a very strange way.
I was told, somebody told me a story, very, very sad, but quite an interesting one.
Yeah.
That when the first, some Chinese arrived and they brought them to your hospital,
yes,
the teaching hospital, and that when they say, once they saw, they had not been pronounced positive.
Yeah.
When they say Chinese, COVID-19, we are told that patients got up from their bed and picked race.
It is a fact, because it was China, where Wuhan was the thing, before it was changed to COVID-19.
Yes.
The virus came from Wuhan in China. That's the story. Then suddenly, the name was coined to be beautiful, COVID-19, coronavirus disease 2019. It's a more fanciful name. It's a Wuhan virus.
Yes.
So it is going to cause a lot of shift in the way medicine.
So you are saying something positive is going to come out of this by the grace of God?
Hopefully, if we get to learn our lesson, because we have a history of not being able to learn the lessons. I do hope that this time we will learn some lessons and address your own needs. Because in as much as this is a global problem, you notice that countries are going for our own first. Our own first.
One of your colleagues came here and said that within a week after this thing hit Abuja, your hospital received a number of ventilators that you never had before.
Things are happening very interestingly and strangely. It then tells you that you have all this while been dealing with a lack of will.
Not that it is not possible to have it.
A lack of will to do it because it doesn't touch you. I will not waste our time. Is same thing applying in the educational sector?
Yes, because you are involved in the two now.
Yes. Because they can ship out their children with our own resources illegitimately gotten to go to school in places where their calendars work. So when you talk about the rot in the educational sector, it's like, what the hell is this person screaming about?
Prof, I had said on this program, and I have said in my homilies, and I have said at public fora, that the only way to make Nigeria truly work for Nigerians is to actually have some kind of legislation that you cannot be Minister of Education if it can be traced that your children are schooling overseas. You cannot be Minister of Health if where you go for your health care regularly is overseas. You can, it's human beings have what they call enlightened self-interest.
Oh, sure.
So how can you have such commitment to education in this country if all your children are schooling overseas? So for me, there has to be a way of putting into the law in this country. Otherwise, it
yes,
won't work.
Father. You see, we're very interesting people. You know, in some positions in this country, embedded in the privileges, is this thing about provision for overseas medical checkup.
As part of the privileges?
Yes, of certain appointments. From the judiciary through to other places. You'll be surprised. It's embedded silently. Annual medical checkup abroad. It is there.
while neglecting the health infrastructure.
That is to
here.
say, you have agreed clearly that what is here
It's
is
not
not
good.
for you. The irony is that several years ago, the first medical school in Saudi Arabia came on in 1968.
Before then, they used to come
20
here.
years before Ibadan. 20 years after Ibadan, UCH. At that time, UCH was the fourth best hospital in the Commonwealth. The Saudi royal family came to Ibadan for attention. Are you understanding? So it's in some of those places. So when you are speaking with them sometime, you are almost considered, who is this crazy fellow? It is embedded, unspoken. You won't hear it. That's why they jet out. Now, talking about medical personnel, Father, I hope you will appreciate that medical personnel are not free from diseases.
Yes. So they have to protect themselves.
They have diabetes too.
Yes.
Some have hypertension.
Yes.
Some have asthma.
Oh, sure.
Are yours? They are human beings.
I mean, the doctor
But
that
then,
died in
yes,
Lagos, I'm told he
doctors
had,
die,
yeah.
nurses die. We're not immune. So, what COVID has done, 19, is that you also have your own comorbidity for some of the health workers, even when they are young, below 40 or 50, they have it. But in the absence of this pandemic, they could function, attend to their health needs, see their own doctors as and when do. I, as a doctor, I also consult my own physician. Some of them were my undergraduate medical students. They have become consultants. I go to them as a patient.
Yes.
And listen to and take instruction. So these same people, you now see without adequate protective personal equipment
And just put them out there.
to confront
No.
this wave that we are seeing is double jeopardy for them.
Sure.
Then coming back to the ordinary, regular patients, it's only natural that they are scared of entering a hospital place, especially when such a hospital has been designated isolation center. How do you now begin to approach for your regular attention for diabetes, hypertension, asthma, etc., or whichever morbidity you have been dealing with and living with and working, including your HIV, that have been going about your life? Only to be confronted with a situation where your mere entry into a hospital, you are a threat, as it were. Caution has to be applied. Thermometer is available to check whether you have a temperature spike. Hey, this patient is already feeling under a lot of aggression.
Yes. Yes.
So
you are suspected.
You not the relationship that should
That
exist
used to be
between
there.
physician and his patient. Now, whether we like it or not, during and post-COVID-19, a doctor can no longer freely get close to a patient.
Unfortunately.
You have to check your patient's temperature before they get into your consultation. Then you have to be careful, the mask thing. Be sure that ventilation is adequate. And you don't go taking too long a time examining patient. Do it very quickly, and then you go to your sanitization. If you wear gloves, you dispose quickly and do your hand sanitization. Same goes for the patient. Because you're the doctor. What says that you are not a problem? So you wear mask, your patient wears mask. And you keep this distance. And you talk across like that. That relationship is affected. You use your stethoscope, you finish examining, you must clean. At every turn. You limit. What if you are in a medical school place where you have to teach? That is to say, students have to be restricted in a consulting, which is where they do the real apprentice learning.
Wait a minute. I'm talking about this now. You are a pathologist.
Yes.
When you take students for cadaver, whatever,
you can't
they cannot come
you
close.
must keep that distance. And currently, America, where this thing is happening, taking all the toll and its burden, has not done autopsy on COVID cases because of the real hazard or possibility of further transmission. Italy has managed to do.
Yes, they
and then reported their findings, which is understandable. You can see the pathogenesis of what this virus has done, knowing the way, the biology of viruses and their pathogenesis in human disease causation. Yes, it gets into the cell and multiplies to do the damage. Ordinarily, the immune system develops, grows to challenge it. But here we are dealing with a peculiar virus that quickly overruns even the immune system.
So what you are saying now, you see, I was concerned about the disruption
Yeah.
in clinical services.
Yes.
You are even implying that even in medical school,
Yeah.
in the teaching of medical students,
The apprenticeship is done in the clinics and in theater and everywhere else in
and
the world.
this is disrupted
So
too.
in this situation, even post-COVID-19, there will be a lot of paradigm shifts in the way you go about it. You can no longer afford, like I had the opportunity as a young undergraduate
of sitting
in
with
University
your,
College Hospital
standing
in
with your
Ibadan,
doctor,
to be close enough with your teacher, the bedside teaching, which was key to your apprenticeship.
formation, yes.
You can't risk it now. You can't crowd around the patient. You have to keep that distance. Wear mask. And then when you come back to examine patient on your own, which patient wants to take that closeness and hazard with you as a medical student? With this story in the air, COVID-19. A lot of things will happen. People will start talking about doing it by modeling, telling this, that, my dear Reverend Father, it is not the same.
It can be.
It cannot be the same. This is about human. Medicine is basically an art with the science. If you take away that interaction,
oh no, something fundamental.
you are dealing with
missing.
robots.
Yes.
And no patient in reality wants to be treated as a robot.
I mean, absolutely.
There's that confidentiality. You need that commune with your
You need the
doctor.
warmth of the human being,
Yes.
the touch of the human being.
That is the story. So, health personnel are at risk. Patients are at risk. Everybody is going about protecting yourself, doing this and that. Good luck. This virus or pandemic will not disappear overnight.
Those are the
It will be
indications
on
coming.
for some years, for some time, not years. Maybe months, maybe another year before the so-called vaccine thing arrives, if we accept the vaccine. So, like it or not, it has already introduced changes
in our way of life. There is a new normal that is coming up.
You cannot, this is talking medicine and medical education first. Because that apprenticeship is key to the training of any medical doctor.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Then you can go about your books reading wherever. You can read your book at 10, 20 kilometer social distancing. You may decide to avoid the library. That's your problem. But we are dealing with apprenticeship. How do we manage it? These are decisions that will be made very quickly.
I mean, until only recently,
yes,
medical training was basically apprenticeship.
It's an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Because that's why at each point you talk of a medical school, the first thing that comes to your mind is a teaching hospital.
That's the medical place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that is our own workshop.
Yes.
You can read all the theory. Here you are with the real life situation.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about it? Earn the trust of the patient. Do your diligence. Do what you should do. And tidy up the patient.
And even when the patient is approaching the doctor with fear, and the doctor is approaching the patient with fear, and the medical student is approaching
the hospital compound
with fear. Wow. Wow.
We're in for something that we have to sit down. I do hope that we don't do our Nigerian thing of taking everything for granted. It's one big sickness here.
So we have a major challenge of how to secure our hospitals.
Oh, sure.
How to secure our medical
As
schools.
we speak, Father, most hospitals currently, at least the big hospitals, have scaled down to emergencies.
Only.
In the absence, given the fact of COVID-19 and isolation and all sorts of things flying all over the place, science and politics, information mix up, all the stuff, most hospitals have scaled down services to an emergency. You will realize that about a week or two ago, some fortnight, the presidential task force briefing was that it was reported that there has been a drop in patient attendance in hospitals.
Oh, very clear.
You now imagine a pregnant woman who is entitled to antenatal care.
Yes.
To avoid all the problems about what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because the world today no longer accepts maternal mortality.
No,
for
that any
reason.
woman should die.
Yes,
I mean, any
giving
child
birth.
should die.
So she's now going to go for antenatal. Hitherto, they will sit with other women, exchange notes. The nurses come, take the basic information, everything is done. The obstetrician looks at them, sees case, has this chart, progress, test urine and everything. In the current setting in the hospitals, it's unlikely to happen.
So the woman is not going for her
antenatal.
antenatal?
The clinics are about to return, but they stop for a while. Because even the patient, pregnant woman, is challenged. Immunity, everything is not at the same level. Is afraid of entering a hospital. As at today, before you go and arrange COVID.
Yeah, because even with the pregnancy, there is a stress on immunity.
Yes. You now walk to be challenged with COVID. The typical reaction, we're all human, is to avoid and probably look for a private place if you can afford it, if they are open, to be attending to you before your main hospital where you are gets back to you. Somebody called me up the other day. He had something that was a surgical problem, and he needed me to talk to a doctor for him in the teaching hospital. So I called up the professor, and he said, yes. We discussed. He said, is there, Prof, is there any complication? I said, I don't think it has gotten to it yet. He said, okay, let him be patient for another 2 weeks. We will then be able to see patients in the clinic with a new arrangement of proper booking, proper everything. You know what I mean? I said, yes. So tell him to just bear with us, that currently we only deal with emergencies. That's where we are.
And in the meantime, people are dying.
Oh, yes. If people are at home with diabetes that you ought to see your doctor regularly, suddenly you can't get their fear of the unknown, and a complication develops. If you're lucky, you survive the emergency.
That's why some experts are saying that more people are dying of fear associated with COVID-19 than actual infections.
There is a lot. You see, managing patients, like the WHO will tell you that health is a holistic thing, both physical, mental, and social well-being. Not just about physical.
Yes.
There's mental, there's social well-being. The definition, the holistic definition of health. So, any of these parameters that is threatened will impact on the others.
And I got to learn that fear is one of those principal factors that truly deplete immunity level.
Yeah. If you are stressed, fear is a lot of stress.
Stress, yes.
Fear alone is a lot of stress. It's a lot of stress, and it could really throw you off balance. We see it happen every day.
And in the first, let's say in the first 1, 2, 3 weeks of this COVID-19 thing, and practically everyone, maybe 90% of people were living in fear.
The fear is still there. It's just that people have decided in our own setting that I might as well die looking for my daily bread than die inside bedroom. You saw what he did, the lockdown.
Yes.
The informal sector employs majority of people.
75% of people, yes.
And then suddenly,
lockdown.
People who have to leave their homes by 5 a.m. till the evening to ensure that there is a meal on the family table.
You lock them out.
You are locking them in. Tensions arose between couples that hitherto had been managing. It exploded. Children were witnesses to social family dislocations.
So the consequences are innumerable.
It's disturbing to some of us. The social consequences. Father, you have not had it. Maybe they will come to confess. Couples have been at each other's throat in the last couple of
because they are seeing themselves more than they used to see themselves.
And the breadwinner is suddenly a beggar, so to speak. The breadwinner is a beggar instantly. You imagine the artisan in Apo or wherever, those that hawk things on the main road, fellow Nigerians. Then the 50 kobo or 100 naira that comes out, or 200 naira.
For 1 week, nothing.
Then they able to put mudu of rice or gari on the table. It's not there. Then you go and lie down with a spouse and the children in one room. Then you're expected to provide mask and water and sanitizer, isn't it? How many people have access to clean water? Father, how many people in this country have access to water or power? We know our story.
I mean, I was hearing people came out and said, you say we should stay indoors. And you didn't give us power.
America gave palliatives on your doorsteps, your bank account. It was there. You saw what happened with the money distribution. Let me tell you, Father, and I want to be quoted. Any country that does not know its population or is playing pranks with it, as we are doing here, will never make progress. Not in this century.
No, they say you cannot plan for what you cannot measure.
Yes.
So if we don't know how many we are, how can you plan for it?
I wake up in my house, I know I have 8 mouths to feed, plus the extended group. So I buy a bag of rice or beans.
And you know how long it will last.
I expect it to go this way. That's budgeting. All of us do budgeting. No matter how poor your arithmetic are, you know the number of mouths you're supposed to feed. Father, how do you explain a country
that doesn't know how many we are?
Yeah. And then suddenly you saw money being shared on telly. Nigeria's currency was on telly being distributed. And you are told billions are disappeared. Children are at home starving. You say you are feeding them, school children. For God's sake, I hope we will get out of COVID a better people.
Amen.
Because the indices, the indications are worrisome.
I hope we will get
We are actually dancing naked in the marketplace.
I hope we will get out of COVID-19 a better people. On that note, Prof.
Yes.
On that note, we will stop this, end this segment. We must have another segment to discuss other dimensions of this. We are right now dancing naked in the marketplace. And we hope that COVID-19 will teach us lessons so that post-COVID-19 we will be better people. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Prof. I've been speaking with Professor JCP EJC Nwana, consultant pathologist, immediate past Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja Academics, and we have been discussing many dimensions of the COVID-19 challenge. We shall have him for a second segment. God bless you for watching.